If you are here right now, it is not by accident. Something inside you felt drawn to this moment, even if you could not explain why. Perhaps you feel lost. Perhaps you feel disconnected from the version of yourself you once recognized. Or perhaps life looks normal on the outside, yet inside there is a quiet confusion, a sense that something is missing, unfinished, or out of alignment. These inner nudges are never random, they are signals. They appear when the soul is ready for a higher direction, even when the mind does not yet understand what that direction is. Feeling lost is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life. We are taught to fear it, to label it as failure, weakness, or lack of purpose. But Florence revealed a different truth. She taught that when a person feels most uncertain, divine intelligence is often most active. When the old path no longer satisfies, it is because it was never meant to carry you forward into your next chapter. What feels like being lost is often the quiet moment before redirection, the pause where the universe clears space for something greater. There are seasons in life when effort no longer produces clarity. You think harder, plan more, try to fix everything, and yet nothing feels settled. This happens when human will is trying to lead where divine order is meant to take over. The confusion you feel is not because you are incapable. It is because you are no longer meant to control the outcome in the way you once did. The law of life does not always move through force. Often, it moves through surrender. If you feel disconnected from your purpose, it does not mean you have lost it. Purpose cannot be lost. It can only be temporarily obscured while something false falls away. The universe removes what no longer aligns before revealing what truly belongs. This removal can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like standing in the dark without instructions. But darkness, in spiritual law, is not absence, it is preparation. Many people panic during this phase. They rush into decisions, cling to old habits, or distract themselves from the discomfort of not knowing. But Florence warned against this. She taught that action taken from fear creates delay, while stillness aligned with faith creates acceleration. When you feel lost, the instinct to rush is natural, but it is also the very thing that keeps clarity away. Divine guidance does not shout, it whispers, and it can only be heard when the inner noise settles. Right now, life may feel silent, prayers may seem unanswered, signs may feel absent. Yet silence is often the language of deep transformation. Seeds grow in silence. Foundations are laid beneath the surface. When nothing appears to be happening, something essential is being rearranged. The human eye cannot always see divine work in progress, but that does not mean it is not occurring. You may be questioning your choices, your timing, even yourself. You may wonder if you missed an opportunity or made a wrong turn. Divine law does not punish, it redirects. There are no wrong turns when you are willing to listen again. The universe does not hold grudges. It simply waits for alignment. And alignment begins with the words you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Inner speech is the architect of experience. When you feel lost and repeat words of fear, confusion multiplies. When you replace those words with trust, even before you feel it, clarity begins to form. The law responds not to emotion, but to declaration. This is why moments of uncertainty are so powerful. They offer a clean slate. The old story loses its grip, and a new one can be spoken into place. There is a sacred reason you cannot see the full picture yet. If you could, you might interfere. You might settle for something smaller simply because it is familiar. The universe withholds details when it is preparing something beyond what the mind would choose on its own. Delay in spiritual law is often protection. Confusion is often concealment of a greater good until the right moment arrives. If you feel like your identity is shifting, that is because it is. You are not meant to carry the same beliefs, desires, or limitations forward. Growth requires a shedding, and shedding feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Before manifestation comes elimination, the removal of false ideas, false dependencies, and false definitions of self. Only then can the true pattern appear. This is why forcing clarity rarely works. Clarity is not created through pressure. It is revealed through alignment. When you stop demanding answers and begin allowing guidance, the universe responds. Faith is not passive. It is an active inner agreement with divine timing. To trust without evidence is not weakness. It is mastery of spiritual law. Perhaps you feel behind. Perhaps you compare your life to others and wonder why your path seems slower or less defined. Florence taught that comparison is blindness. Each soul has its own appointed time and its own appointed way. What is delayed in one area may be developing strength in another. What looks empty now may soon be filled beyond expectation. There is also a deeper truth. Feeling lost often precedes a leap in consciousness. When old beliefs collapse, the mind feels disoriented, but the soul feels relief. You may not recognize it yet, but something within you knows this phase is necessary. You would not be here otherwise. The discomfort you feel is not resistance to failure. It is resistance to expansion. If you listen closely, even now, there may be a quiet sense that something is changing. Not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly. Divine order moves gently, never violently. It rearranges circumstances without strain when allowed to work freely. The moment you stop fighting confusion and begin trusting the process, the weight begins to lift. You are not required to have all the answers. You are only required to be willing. Willing to trust. Willing to speak differently. Willing to pause without panic. When the soul says, "I am willing," the universe says, "I am ready." Readiness is not about preparation. It is about permission. In this moment, nothing has gone wrong. Your life is not off track. You are not late. You are not broken. You are standing at a threshold. And thresholds are always uncomfortable because they belong to neither the past nor the future. They belong to transition. Transition is sacred ground. It is where old limitations dissolve and new power begins to form. As you remain here, listening, allow this truth to settle. You are not lost. You are being led. The path may not be visible yet, but it is forming beneath your feet. Each moment of trust strengthens it. Each word of faith solidifies it. And soon, without force, without struggle, direction will appear, not as something you chase, but as something that meets you. Feeling lost is not failure. It is not a sign that you are behind in life or that you have made the wrong choices. This feeling comes only when a higher order is quietly rearranging your path. When direction disappears, it is because the old way has finished its work and something greater is preparing to take its place. What you call confusion is often the moment when life removes what no longer belongs, so you are not tempted to settle for less than what is meant for you. Most people misunderstand this stage and begin to doubt themselves. But this is not collapse. It is a pause of divine intelligence. You are standing between what was and what is coming next. Nothing has gone wrong. Guidance has not left you. It has simply moved inward. This uncertainty is not punishment. It is protection. It is the space where false ideas fall away and true direction begins to form. If these words are reaching you now, it is because you are ready to receive them. You are not disconnected from your purpose. You are being redirected toward it. Trust this moment. Honor this stillness. Even now, something unseen is working on your behalf, shaping a life that fits you more perfectly than anything you could have planned on your own. Clarity does not come from force. It never has. The mind believes that if it thinks harder, plans more, or pushes faster, answers will appear. But life does not respond to pressure. It responds to alignment. When you try to force clarity, you actually push it further away, because force is born from fear, and fear clouds perception. True guidance arrives only when the inner struggle ends. Many people believe that confusion means they must act quickly, decide immediately, or do something drastic to regain control. But control is not clarity. Control is often resistance disguised as strength. When you rush to escape uncertainty, you silence the very guidance that is trying to reach you. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is the doorway through which right ideas enter. When clarity is absent, it is not because it has been taken from you. It is because you are being invited to release the habit of forcing outcomes. Life does not reveal direction to a tense mind, it reveals it to a receptive one. A mind filled with urgency cannot hear instruction, because urgency speaks louder than intuition. Peace, not pressure, is the signal that guidance is near. Fear creates noise. It asks endless questions. It imagines worst-case outcomes. It demands guarantees before trust. But guidance does not argue with fear. It waits for it to quiet down. The moment you stop demanding answers, answers begin to form. The moment you release the need to know everything at once, the next step gently presents itself. You are not meant to solve your entire life at once. You are meant to receive it in order. Forcing clarity is like trying to read a book by skipping to the last page. You miss the wisdom of the unfolding. Each step is revealed only when you are ready to walk it. Impatience delays revelation. Trust accelerates it. Inner speech is where this shift begins. The words you repeat when you feel uncertain determine whether clarity approaches or retreats. When you say, "I don't know what to do," confusion deepens. When you say, "Nothing is working," resistance strengthens. But when you replace those words with quiet trust, something changes beneath the surface. The outer world may look the same, but the inner atmosphere becomes calm, and clarity can finally breathe. There is a profound difference between waiting in fear and waiting in faith. Waiting in fear feels heavy, restless, exhausting. Waiting in faith feels still, alert, expectant. Faith does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means agreeing inwardly that life is working for you, even when the evidence is not yet visible. This agreement dissolves resistance, and where resistance dissolves, direction appears. You may feel tempted to fix yourself during uncertain times, to analyze what is wrong, what needs improvement, what you should change immediately, but there is nothing wrong with you. You do not need fixing, you need alignment. Fixing assumes something is broken. Alignment recognizes that something is simply out of place and will return naturally when allowed. Clarity is not created, it is uncovered. It exists beneath fear, beneath overthinking, beneath the need to control. The moment you stop interfering, it rises. This is why effort fails and surrender succeeds. Not surrender to helplessness, but surrender to intelligence greater than the thinking mind. Often, the mind wants answers because it wants safety, but true safety does not come from knowing the future, it comes from trusting the process. The future does not need your anxiety to arrive correctly. It needs your cooperation. Cooperation looks like calm expectancy, not frantic effort. When you force clarity, you often choose from fear, and fear-based decisions always require correction later. When you wait for inner peace before acting, your actions align naturally. Peace is the green light. Anxiety is the red one. Life never asks you to move forward without peace. It asks you to become peaceful first. There is also a divine economy at work. When you stop forcing, you conserve energy. That conserved energy becomes magnetism. Opportunities move toward you instead of being chased. Ideas surface without strain. People appear without effort. This is not coincidence. It is alignment responding to ease. Silence plays a vital role here. Guidance rarely arrives in loud moments. It comes in quiet realizations, gentle nudges, sudden knowing. But silence cannot be accessed while the mind is shouting demands. You do not need to sit in silence for hours. You only need to stop arguing with life internally. Agreement invites instruction. Understand this deeply. Clarity is not something you chase. It is something that meets you when you stop running. It arrives when you accept that not knowing is part of knowing. That pause is not empty. It is full of preparation. It is shaping your perception so you recognize the right path when it appears. If you feel pressure to decide, pause. Pressure never comes from truth. Truth feels steady even when it asks for courage. Fear feels urgent even when it leads nowhere. Learn to tell the difference. One brings peace before action. The other demands action to escape discomfort. Right now, you are not meant to force answers. You are meant to soften into trust. Replace urgency with affirmation. Replace panic with agreement. Say inwardly, "The right idea reaches me at the right time." Then allow life to do what it does best: arrange, reveal, and guide. Clarity is already on its way, not because you are chasing it, but because you have stopped blocking it. The moment resistance ends, revelation begins, and it always arrives gently, naturally, and perfectly timed. Confusion is not punishment. It has never been. Yet the human mind is trained to believe that when things are unclear, something must be wrong. It assumes that uncertainty is a sign of error, delay, or failure. But confusion does not arrive to harm you. It arrives to protect you. When clarity disappears, it is often because seeing too clearly, too soon, would lead you in the wrong direction. There are times when the mind wants answers that the soul is not yet ready to act upon. In those moments, guidance withdraws from the surface, not because it is gone, but because it is shielding you from premature action. If every path were visible at once, you might choose from fear, familiarity, or impatience. Confusion steps in as a guardian. It keeps you still until your inner alignment matches the truth that is waiting to be revealed. Protection does not always feel comforting. Sometimes it feels like standing in fog, unable to see more than a few steps ahead. But fog exists for a reason. It slows movement. It prevents rushing. It ensures that each step is taken with awareness rather than impulse. In the same way, confusion slows the soul when speed would be harmful. It pauses progress so progress can later move without correction. Many people try to escape confusion by labeling it as negativity. They distract themselves, fill every quiet moment with noise, or seek constant reassurance from the outside world. But confusion cannot be bypassed, it must be understood. When you resist it, it lingers. When you accept it, it begins to lift. Acceptance is not resignation, it is recognition that something intelligent is at work. There are doors you cannot see clearly because they are not meant to be opened yet. There are paths you cannot recognize because you are not yet the person who can walk them with confidence. Confusion protects you from choices that would delay your growth. It prevents you from settling. It keeps you from mistaking comfort for destiny. Think of how often people move quickly simply to escape discomfort, only to later realize they chose from fear. Confusion interrupts that pattern. It removes the illusion of certainty so truth can emerge later without force. What feels like being stuck is often life saying, "Wait, there is more you need to become before this next step makes sense." Protection is not always gentle. Sometimes it feels frustrating, sometimes it feels isolating, but even then, it serves you. Confusion creates space, space to release old identities, old expectations, old definitions of success. Without that space, new direction has nowhere to land. Life cannot pour clarity into a mind still holding outdated conclusions. When confusion appears, it is tempting to ask, "Why don't I know what to do?" A better question is, "What am I being protected from right now?" Often the answer is subtle. You are being protected from forcing outcomes, from repeating old cycles, from choosing what looks right instead of what is right. Confusion removes false confidence so real confidence can form. This phase also teaches trust, not blind trust, but quiet trust, the kind that does not need constant proof. When everything is clear, trust is easy. When nothing is clear, trust becomes a practice, and practice strengthens faith. Confusion trains the soul to rely on something deeper than visible signs. It teaches listening rather than demanding. You may feel tempted to judge yourself during this time, to assume you are unmotivated, unfocused, or disconnected. But self-judgment only adds weight to the pause. Confusion is already doing its work. It does not need your criticism to complete its task. Gentleness allows the lesson to unfold more quickly. Understand this: if confusion were meant to stop you permanently, it would not feel uncomfortable. You would settle into it and forget your longing for clarity. The discomfort itself is proof that movement is coming. Protection is temporary. It lasts only as long as necessary. The moment you are ready to see clearly without fear, the fog begins to thin. Often, clarity arrives suddenly after a period of deep uncertainty. Not gradually, not logically. One day, something simply makes sense. That moment feels effortless because the inner work was done quietly during confusion. What felt like waiting was actually preparation. What felt like delay was alignment happening beneath awareness. Confusion also protects your timing. Not everything that belongs to you should arrive immediately. Some things require maturity, stability, or inner strength you are still developing. Confusion keeps you from stepping into roles, responsibilities, or relationships before you can sustain them with peace. It protects both you and what is meant for you. There is no need to rush this phase. Rushing suggests mistrust. Trust allows the process to complete naturally. When you stop fighting confusion, it transforms. It becomes curiosity. Curiosity becomes openness. Openness becomes readiness. And readiness invites clarity without strain. Remember this gently. Confusion does not mean you are lost. It means you are being held back from what would limit you. Held still until the right movement becomes obvious. Held in place while life rearranges itself around your becoming. Nothing in this pause is wasted. Every moment of not knowing is shaping discernment. Every unanswered question is strengthening intuition. Every quiet day is building a foundation you will stand on later without doubt. When clarity returns, and it will not feel forced, it will feel natural, calm, and unmistakable. You will not question it. You will recognize it. And you will move forward without the anxiety you once had. Grateful for the confusion that protected you when you could not yet protect yourself. Until then, rest in this truth. Confusion is not against you. It is for you. It is guarding your path, refining your vision, and preparing you for a direction that will feel right not just to the mind, but to the soul. Words are not harmless. They are not empty sounds. Every word you speak carries direction, instruction, and power. Life does not respond to what you wish. It responds to what you declare. Most people are unaware that they are constantly giving commands to the unseen through their inner speech. What you repeat silently becomes law in your experience, whether you intend it or not. When clarity feels distant, when circumstances appear uncertain, the words you choose matter more than ever. In moments of confusion, many people unknowingly strengthen confusion by speaking it into place. They say, "I don't know what to do. Nothing is working. I feel stuck," and then wonder why guidance feels farther away. Words are not descriptions, they are directions. They tell life what to continue producing. The unseen law does not analyze your situation. It does not judge your tone. It does not ask whether you meant well. It simply responds. It responds faithfully, precisely, and without exception. When fear-filled words are spoken repeatedly, fear organizes itself into form. When words of trust are spoken, even quietly, even imperfectly, order begins to emerge. Many believe that words only have power when they feel confident. This is not true. Words work regardless of emotion. You do not have to feel strong for strength to be activated. You do not have to feel guided for guidance to appear. The law responds to agreement, not to feeling. The moment you speak words of alignment, you enter agreement with a higher order. Inner speech is especially powerful because it is continuous. What you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening sets the tone of your life. You may speak positivity aloud, but if your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, the inner voice prevails. Life follows the most consistent instruction it receives. This is why change often begins invisibly. When you alter your words, nothing seems different at first. Circumstances may remain the same. But beneath the surface, something shifts. Old patterns lose momentum. New pathways begin forming. Words prepare the ground long before results appear. Many people wait for evidence before they change how they speak. But evidence follows words. It does not precede them. If you wait to feel secure before speaking trust, you will wait indefinitely. The law requires initiative. You must speak the end before it appears. This is not denial of reality. It is direction of reality. When you say, I am guided, guidance organizes itself. When you say, things always work out for me, life begins arranging outcomes to match that command. When you say, I am supported, support appears in forms you did not anticipate. The mind may question this, but the law does not. It obeys. Words also neutralize fear. Fear feeds on repetition. It grows louder when spoken. But fear cannot survive in an atmosphere of steady affirmation. When fear arises, it is not something to fight, it is something to replace. Replace it with a declaration of truth, and fear loses its authority. This is why discipline of speech is essential. Not perfection, but awareness. You will notice how often negative phrases slip in unnoticed. They seem casual, harmless, habitual. But habit is exactly how they gain power. When you interrupt a habit, you reclaim authority. Silence is sometimes better than careless speech. If you cannot yet speak words of trust, choose not to speak words of doubt. Pause, breathe, then speak deliberately. Words spoken slowly and consciously carry greater weight than rushed declarations. There is also timing in speech. Speak before the storm, not during it. Establish your inner language when things are calm so it carries you when they are not. Words practiced in peace become automatic in pressure. This is preparation, not superstition. Understand this deeply. Life is always listening, not selectively, not occasionally, always. It listens to the story you repeat and does its best to fulfill it. If you tell a story of struggle, life finds ways to confirm it. If you tell a story of guidance, life aligns circumstances to support it. Words do not manipulate life, they cooperate with it. They allow the unseen to take form. They give shape to possibility. They bridge the inner world and the outer one. Without words, intention remains unexpressed. With words, intention gains movement. You may feel resistance when you begin changing your inner speech. The mind may argue. Old habits may protest. This is normal. It does not mean the words are ineffective. It means they are interrupting an old pattern. Continue anyway. Consistency matters more than intensity. Even one steady phrase repeated daily can change the direction of a life. A simple declaration, spoken with calm persistence, holds more power than dramatic affirmations spoken once and forgotten. Choose words you can live with. Words that feel gentle, believable, steady. Over time, these words will feel natural, and when they feel natural, life begins to feel cooperative. Resistance softens, opportunities align, decisions become easier, not because life suddenly changed, but because you changed the instructions it was receiving. Remember this always. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are in conversation with it. And words are the language of that conversation. Speak wisely. Speak gently. Speak with faith, even when evidence is still forming. The unseen law never delays. It responds immediately. What appears delayed is only the time required for alignment to take form. Keep speaking the truth you want to live into. Life will meet you there. You are not broken. This is the greatest misunderstanding the mind creates during periods of uncertainty. When things feel unclear, when motivation fades, when the old version of you no longer fits, the mind immediately assumes damage. But nothing is damaged. Nothing is wrong. What is happening is far more sacred than that. You are being rebuilt. Rebuilding does not look powerful from the outside. It looks quiet. It looks slow. It looks like rest instead of action. It looks like letting go instead of pushing forward. And because it does not match the world's idea of progress, it is often mistaken for failure. But rebuilding is not regression. It is refinement. Before something stronger can stand, the old structure must be taken apart. Not violently, gently, piece by piece. Anything that was unstable, outdated, or no longer aligned is removed. This is not loss. This is preparation. Nothing essential is ever taken away, only what cannot support what you are becoming. During rebuilding, familiar desires fade, old goals lose their pull. Even relationships and environments may feel distant. This does not mean you are losing yourself. It means you are shedding versions that were built from survival, not truth. The new structure requires honesty, peace, and alignment. Anything built on fear cannot remain. Rebuilding often feels lonely, not because you are abandoned, but because you are becoming inwardly anchored. External validation becomes quieter, so inner authority can strengthen. You are learning to trust yourself, your timing, your intuition. This inner trust will soon replace the need for constant reassurance. Nothing about this process is rushed. Rebuilding happens at the pace of integration. Every lesson must settle. Every realization must root. If things moved faster, the foundation would crack later. What feels slow now is ensuring stability later. You may notice that you no longer tolerate what you once accepted. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. Rebuilding sharpens discernment. It teaches you what truly fits and what merely filled space. From this clarity, future choices become cleaner, calmer, and more confident. The world often celebrates construction but ignores reconstruction. Yet reconstruction creates resilience. What you are becoming now will not collapse under pressure the way old versions did. This new foundation is being built with awareness, not urgency, with truth, not compromise. There is nothing you need to fix. Fixing implies brokenness. You are not broken, you are under divine revision. Revision always improves clarity. It removes unnecessary weight. It simplifies strength. When rebuilding completes, life feels lighter, not heavier. And when this process ends, and it will, you will not recognize yourself in the best possible way. You will move differently, choose differently, speak differently. Not because you forced change, but because change settled into you naturally. Now listen closely. If you feel lost, confused, uncertain, or paused right now, do not rush past this moment. Do not judge it. Do not label it as delay. This is a threshold, a sacred one, and thresholds are crossed quietly. Trust the stillness. Trust the pause. Trust the rebuilding. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to agree that it exists. Say this inwardly, without effort, without strain. I am being guided. I am being protected. I am being rebuilt. And then allow life to respond. Because it always does. If these words reached you today, they were meant for you. Stay here. Stay open. And remember, nothing is falling apart. Everything is falling into place.